The following presentation is a production of Ride the Wave Media.
It's the Best Birth Podcast, where we interview experts that elevate you as you prepare your heart and mind to have the best birth.
Each episode will interview professionals so you are prepared for pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. Our experts will build your confidence and empower you to trust your intuition throughout your pregnancy.
This audio is taken from videos on YouTube. Watch the entire episodes on YouTube at Birth Made Mindful. Welcome to the Best Birth Podcast. Our episode today features Carly Crowther, a flight attendant and birth educator.
Welcome, Carly. Carly has been living her dream job as a flight attendant for almost 9 years, and she loves being able to show her family the world. When she is not flying, she's a birth coach who is passionate about helping women prepare mentally and physically for a positive labor experience. She loves hiking with her 2 huskies and going on adventures with her husband and 2 daughters. So good to meet you.
Oh, it's so great to see you guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you.
In our podcast, we have been walking through 40 experts, 40 weeks of pregnancy, what we can do to prepare for our baby. And the thought came to my mind, what about that time to travel, that time to connect? You know, even if it's your second baby or your third baby, when do you connect with your partner and create foundation for your new baby to arrive? Can you tell us a little bit about a baby moon?
Yes. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. So travel plus pregnancy, put them together, and I'm just like in heaven. I could talk about it forever. So a baby moon is kind of a new thing. Like when I mentioned it to my parents, they were like, wait, what? Like, what are you doing? It's kind of like a honeymoon. So it's like a special trip that you plan. It's for you and your partner to have a little getaway vacation before baby comes. So ideally you would do it when you're pregnant. And it's just that special time to just bond together, that last hurrah before baby comes. So I was going to I have a couple ideas for you guys just on topics to talk about on the baby moon. So number one is just like your hopes and dreams for baby. So take the time to write letters to your baby. You could even journal your feelings about pregnancy and about becoming a parent. Talk with your partner about what you're looking forward to most about becoming parent and what you're most nervous about. So remember to talk about the positives, what you're excited about, but then also remember to bring up those, hey, I'm a little nervous about this part of parenting or this part of birth. What aspects of parenting did you experience as a child that you want to adopt in your own parenting style? And what aspects of parenting do you want to leave behind? And that's for you and your birth partner to talk about. So one thing with parenting is like you really don't know what to expect until you're in it. And so having those ground rules placed before of like, hey, I want to try this type of parenting. What did you experience as a child? What worked for you? So I feel like during the baby moon, that could be a great time to talk about that. You can talk about your birth plan and go over ways that your birth partner can help you during labor. So mamas, I want to encourage you to be specific in this. So talking about, hey, during labor, I do want you to verbally affirm me. I really want you to say a lot of encouragement. Or, hey, during labor, like if you could, rub my back or give me a lot of physical touch. So I think a lot of us just assume, oh, my husband or my partner will know what to do in labor to help me. But I think it's really important to ask for it and not be afraid to ask for what you want. And hey, sometimes you won't know what you want until you're in labor either. Sometimes you're like, oh, I want to be touched. And then during labor, you're like, oh, please don't touch me. So some of the things you might not know till you're in it, but it's so good to talk about those expectations beforehand. And the baby moon is such a romantic time. I think just also talking about those oxytocin boosters that you can have during labor. So like physical touch, kissing, words of affirmation, like, love flowing. So I would just encourage you guys on your baby moon to talk about your birth plan and then also specific ways that your birth partner can help you during labor. And then last but not least, practice your birth affirmations and hypnobirthing if that is your plan to utilize those techniques during labor. And the Birth Made Mindful affirmation cards are my absolute favorite. I used them for my second birth, and it was so nice to have those written affirmation cards that my husband could read so that he didn't feel like he didn't know what to say or was running out of things to say. So he had 30 different affirmation cards to read. And then I could even glance at them too. So so you could bring those birth affirmation cards on your baby moon and start practicing. It's never too early to start visualizing and having those positive birth affirmations being read over you during pregnancy.
The intention that you have put behind the baby moon is so powerful. Not just a time to take a flight and rest on the beach, but actually preparing emotionally, connecting with your partner in a way that you are developing like goals. You're coming together, you're unifying your purpose in the birth and thereafter.
Yeah. I know, it's so fun. And honestly, it was during COVID during my first pregnancy. So we took a little mini baby moon, just a camping trip up in the cabins. And it was really fun still. But then with my second, we ended up taking my 1.5-year-old to France with us for our baby moon. And it was drastically different experiences. The first up in the cabin, just the two of us, we could do these things. We could talk about, our birth plan and, going over our parenting and everything. And then in France with my 1.5-year-old, it was just kind of exhausting chasing her around. But, we still had a great time. But we were joking. We're like, maybe the next baby moon, we won't bring the baby. So.
Well, and also determining at what stage in your pregnancy you'd like to go and travel. My husband and I, we went to Lake Tahoe, but I was so pregnant that I could barely hike. And that's like one of the beautiful things to do there. We had to kind of adjust our plans so that I wasn't hiking 5 miles a day on our baby moon. So is there a certain week that you have found is greater success for that baby moon?
Yeah. So let's talk about travel. So specifically, I want to talk about air travel. I am a flight attendant. It's the best job I've ever had. I love it so much. I'm coming up on 9 years and I probably will never quit. I'll probably just be like that old grandma flight attendant. I love it so much. Okay, so what I have found with myself flying or just talking to friends who are flying while pregnant, the best time to fly, if you can schedule your baby moon or just traveling in general during pregnancy, is in that second trimester. So between, maybe 14 to 28 weeks, it's kind of like that sweet spot, I would say. You're maybe out of the throes of like morning sickness, and then you're not quite, uncomfortable, like big enough that you can't hike and things like that. So I would say anywhere between 14 to 28 weeks. So one thing to kind of keep in mind, you can travel up to 36 weeks for domestic flights. Anything past that, sometimes the airlines will want like a doctor's note. I've only seen that one time where I had like a mama get on my flight and I was like, oh, hello, when's your due date and stuff. And she like had her doctor's note ready. So there is like a little bit of a risk flying past 36 weeks. The altitude and just the change in pressure can sometimes, cause maybe labor to begin. So they don't really want you to fly after 36 weeks. For international flights, you might need a doctor's note anywhere after 28 weeks, just depending on the airlines. So yeah, it's something to kind of keep in mind. Speaking about giving birth on planes, so in flight attendant training, we were actually trained on what to do if someone goes into labor. We have like blankets, these like clamps for the umbilical cord. Like we have things on board that I'm like, I hope I never have to use this, but like in training, we had a whole module on like what to do if someone has a baby on the plane.
And for sure, you will be the first person they call to because of your love of birth.
Well, I hope so. I think I'm like, oh, that'd be kind of cool. But no, yeah. So I don't know if I personally would want to give birth on the plane. So maybe none of my passengers, I'll hope for that. But anyway, so let's try to travel on the plane before 36 weeks so we can avoid that. I have seen some news stories of births on the plane. So.
And speaking of travel and being pregnant, I went on a cruise when I was almost 20 weeks pregnant. And, that was getting near the cutoff. I want to say it's 24 weeks. It might even be 20, but you can't go on a cruise if you're far enough along. So that's something to keep in mind too.
Yeah, that's true. So I wanted to give a couple tips too, just like in general air travel while pregnant. So the number one tip is to stay hydrated. So during pregnancy, you need that extra fluid. On the plane, it can be so dehydrating. So bring your own water bottle. I know some people are like, oh, I can just get water on the plane. Sometimes like things, out of your control will happen. So like if they can't do service because there's turbulence or like, they have to wait to do service, you do not want to be in a situation where you are feeling like dehydrated and needing water. So bring your own water bottle, fill it up after security. Also, I would have a goal of trying to get up and moving about the cabin, like walking through the aisle at least every hour to improve your circulation. And then if you can't, like if you are having to stay in your seat, try to do like ankle rolls, try to like kind of stay moving in your seat to improve that circulation. And then you can also buy like compression socks or stockings. Those are really popular too for pregnant flyers. And then I would say too, so if you can get an aisle seat, that's like kind of ideal. It's good if you need to like pop up and go to the restroom or, if you are feeling like a little claustrophobic or like maybe dehydrated, needing water, needing to get something out of your bag, maybe pick an aisle seat. And I love the window seat. I'm a window seat girly, but during pregnancy, I'll try to get an aisle seat. And then if you are flying in that first trimester or, you are still having morning sickness, bring your own snacks. It's so important to keep something on your tummy when you are feeling morning sickness. So bring snacks. I love like mints or like chewing gum, like having that mint kind of helps my morning sickness or like my nausea. So just kind of like little tips that I have in my back pocket from working. And then something also to keep in mind that I thought of when traveling internationally for maybe a baby moon is to maybe avoid countries that have viruses like Zika, that could cause like birth defects. So just kind of researching like what are the Zika levels in the destination that you're hoping to go to.
Well, and not just the viruses, but maybe even checking out the foodborne illnesses, right? Like you don't want to find yourself somewhere where all of a sudden you've got diarrhea or other like health conditions.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like common for that area.
It's kind of a different side of researching you probably haven't had to do around travel, of like travel during pregnancy. But it's still, you can still make it a great time and have that awesome baby moon. And then I also wanted to just touch on like road trips. So like my first pregnancy, we weren't able to go on like a flight to our baby moon. We did like a road trip. So with the road trip, I would say to have the goal of stopping every 90 minutes to like walk around for like at least a minute, just to, get that blood flowing, walk around and stretch. Also bring lots of snacks and water on that too. The fun thing about road trips is you can bring like pillows and blankets and just get cozy. Have like that pillow behind your lower back if you need. And then always keep that seatbelt low under your belly, under your baby. So yeah.
They have tools that I've seen for the seatbelt. Have you ever utilized one of those? And are they also available on the plane?
Oh yeah, I haven't utilized one. I do have a friend who like swears by it during pregnancy. We don't have that on the plane. So on the plane, just do the normal seatbelt and just do it low, like under your belly, not like up above your belly button or anything, like under. So yeah, that's kind of all I had on like baby moon and travel. But if you, whether you choose to travel plane, cruise, car, I hope you enjoy your baby moon. It's such a special time. And, it's just so fun to imagine, your baby and like really start preparing and planning for little baby to join your family. So
I love the intention that you brought to the baby moon. I know Sarah touched on that as well. I didn't know about baby moons with my first, though in retrospect, I guess we had a little road trip beforehand. And then with my second, we had kind of heard about them and it was wintertime. So we went away and it was a cozy Airbnb and it actually has a lot of arcade games. So that was kind of fun for us. And then with my third, we went on that cruise and it was kind of a family ordeal. But I love this in preparation for my next child, just really bringing that intention because, we love that with Made Mindful and the best birth. We're just all about planning and really making it the best birth for you. And so including a baby moon in that is beautiful.
I think one topic that you could add for a baby moon, maybe a little less romantic, is just the division of labor. So when baby comes, like what tasks are both of us really good at? What do we want to continue? I found that I was really good at packing the diaper bag, making sure we had the supplies on hand, making sure that our snack bag was full. And my husband wasn't as naturally prone to preparing like that, but kind of owning that level of task in my home, I think was really helpful. There's an amazing book by Eve Rodsky called Fair Play. She actually has these cute little cards. And so you can pass them out. You can see what tasks that your home and your family management require. And that way you guys can talk about it even before baby comes, so that there's not one partner who feels overwhelmed with the amount of extra chores that come along with a baby.
And along with that too, especially nighttime, I feel like that was a big conversation. Okay, who's getting up with the baby? Yes, you're breastfeeding, but could we give him a bottle? Or we're doing formula, so now I'll get up at this time. That was a big one, because the main care provider needs that sleep in order to prepare for the day, and just having those conversations beforehand can really make it go a lot smoother.
I love that. And I feel like it's so good to talk about that before baby comes. I feel like if you're having those conversations in the 3 weeks postpartum and you're just lack of sleep, I don't know, let's just do it. But it is so good to talk about those things beforehand. So I love that you brought that up.
Our mission is to stop as many middle of the night fights as possible.
Yay.
Well, if you're comfortable sharing, we'd love to hear some more of your birth experiences and how pregnancy was for you and birth, all of those things.
Oh, sure. I would love to share. So I was pregnant with my first. It was actually during COVID. So I got furloughed from the airline. So we got pregnant. I was used to being gone 5 days a week, and all of a sudden I was home. So my husband was in medical school, so we were planning on waiting till after medical school. But because of the furlough and everything, I got pregnant earlier than we planned. But anyways, so yeah, like I said, I was, kind of anxious for labor, not really, kind of didn't want to think about it. People would ask hey, how are you feeling about labor? And I was like, ooh, I don't want to think about that. I'm enjoying pregnancy. I know I'll have to do this hard thing, and then I'll have the baby, I've heard not great things about labor. So I was kind of anxious about it. And actually, Sarah, my sister-in-law, she encouraged me. She just asked, hey, have you researched the benefits of an unmedicated birth? Have you thought about doing an unmedicated birth? And I was like, I haven't thought about it. I haven't researched it. And so I started looking into it and was just amazed at the benefits for both mom and baby doing unmedicated birth. I knew that it was going to be very hard and something I'd never experienced. So I just was like, okay, I'm going to try to prepare as much as I can mentally and physically for labor. My goal is to do an unmedicated birth. It was a hospital birth we were planning during COVID, so I could only have my husband. I couldn't have a doula or my mom or a birth photographer or anything. So it was just going to be my husband and I. And we were planning an unmedicated birth in the hospital. I felt super grounded mentally. I felt like I had prepared. I knew the stages of labor. I knew pain relief techniques. I had communicated to my doctor, I'm wanting to do an unmedicated birth. How can you support me in that? I felt like there was a mutual respect with my doctor. She knew my goal. And so I had a supportive provider. I had a supportive birth partner. And I was mentally ready. So I had my birth affirmation cards and I was, mentally preparing. I ended up having to get induced, which was not part of my birth plan. So reflecting back, I feel like I tried not to let, that first step of my birth plan was already changed, and looking back, I was just okay, that's okay. I didn't want to be induced, but it's happening. I was at 40 weeks and 6 days. So I was getting induced for the fetal heart rate was kind of being weird during contractions or Braxton Hicks. So I was okay, it's okay. My birth plan is changing. I am just going to be flexible and still I'm going to try to do an unmedicated birth. And it just felt like everything was kind of falling into place. The nurse that we had, she was born in that room, she was going to support my unmedicated birth. And the induction was with Cervidil. So it was a very gradual, non-invasive induction. It's just a kind of a cervical ripener that they put up. It's almost like a tampon that they put up in to touch your cervix. And so that helped me dilate and it kind of kickstarted me into labor. So I never had to do Pitocin or anything. My body just kind of started dilating. I was doing all the techniques I had practiced and learned. And my husband was doing like acupressure points on my body to help me dilate and help with pain management. I was squeezing my comb, to help with that focus and pain management. So I kind of just looked at it as like, I can do this next contraction. I can do this 1 minute contraction, I did the last one. I can do this one. And I just focused on one contraction at a time and kind of lost track of time and where I was supposed to be at in the hospital's standard of labor. I was just kind of in the zone, and like the nurses would come in and check on me. It ended up being a midwife who was on call, who I'd never met before. And so she would come in and check on me, and I was just kind of in labor land in my focus, and my husband was communicating. So he was on the same page. He knew my birth plan. And so after 14 hours after the induction, so 14 hours of labor, I got checked and I was at an 8. And I was like, okay, like I'm already at an 8. Like I can do this. I can do this. And that's the moment where I was like, I can do this unmedicated. I had never experienced labor before. I didn't know what to expect. I thought I could do it mentally. And now when I was at 8, I was like, I got this. My water ended up breaking at 8 centimeters. So not like the movies where it's like the first thing, and I just remember it being like a water balloon. I just remember it like hitting the peanut ball because I was like on my side with the peanut ball. And I told my husband, I was like, I think the baby's coming. And so we called the nurses. They all came in. Baby was ready to come out. And I pushed, I think it was like 28 minutes. The midwife was kind of joking, like, hey, there's 2 other moms pushing right now. And I was like, okay, I got this. I'm kind of like a rape. And yeah, so she was born 28 minutes later. And wow, just the joy when she was put on my chest. Just like that moment of like, I have dreamed of you. I have prayed for you. I have waited for you. I have imagined you, your little toes and your little fingers. And just having her on my chest was just like, oh my gosh, like I cannot believe I just did that. And like that she's here and she's safe. One kind of crazy thing with her birth is, so my husband got to catch her because he was in medical school. So they let him catch her. And he was the first baby she was the first baby that he delivered. And so I remember like pushing and she came out and the first thing I saw, like he grabbed her and then the midwife went like this and it was wrapped around 5 times for cord. So they said that that's why her heart rate was being a little strange earlier during the fetal monitoring. But anyway, she was totally fine and it ended up being an awesome experience. And I loved it. Like I actually really enjoyed labor. It was so hard, the hardest thing I've ever done, but I loved it. I felt so great after and I felt so loved by my partner and just in awe of this little miracle on my chest, So ever since that birth, which is 3 years ago, I cannot stop talking about how amazing labor can be. I just want to encourage women who were maybe feeling that same way I was feeling during my first pregnancy of like, I don't want to think about labor. I don't want to have to even talk about it. Like I'm feeling anxious about it. I know I'm going to have to do it and I'm not looking forward to it. That's where my headspace was before. And then having this amazing positive hospital birth, the hospital staff, they respected my wishes. They kept the lights dim. They, listened to my birth plan and supported me. So it is possible to have a positive, unmedicated birth in a hospital setting. So I love talking to pregnant women about it and encouraging them. My second birth was very, very different. We were planning on a birth center. So like not a hospital, but not a home birth. So birth centers, happy medium with certified nurse midwives, nursing team, and like private rooms with like a birthing tub. I could have a doula with me. So that was our plan, was to do a birth center. At 39 and like 3 days, my body went into labor. It was my mom's birthday. We were getting ready to go to my mom's birthday dinner. So I was like getting in my outfit for like dinner at the restaurant. And I was like having cramps, which I've never gone into labor naturally. So I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, it might just be cramps. Plus my first was a whole week late. I was mentally preparing for another 2 weeks, and I was like, I think I'm just having cramps. And then like, I started realizing like, I can't really talk through these anymore because I was actually home alone with my daughter. And I called my mom who's on her way to her birthday dinner. And I was like, yeah, I like can't really talk through these. Like, I think I might be in labor. So she actually ended up coming up and picking up me and the dogs and my daughter. We started driving down. My husband luckily was able to get off work. And we went to my parents' house to drop off my 1-year-old or my 2-year-old daughter, almost 2. And I was like, I don't know, maybe we can still go to birthday dinner. Like, I was still like, in a good headspace. Like, I don't know if I'm in labor. And called my midwife. I sent her my screenshot of my contractions from the app. And she was like, yeah, it doesn't seem like your contractions are very consistent. Let's have you go home and like relax. And I was like, this is what I've always wanted. I've always wanted to labor at home. I've always wanted to be like in the tub and like my safe place and like with candles and my birth playlist playing. And so we go to my parents' house because they live closer to the birth center than my house. And my mom like sets up her tub with like candles and my playlist, and my husband's there. And we're there for like probably 40 minutes. And I start feeling like, okay, I'm not having as much fun anymore. Like, I know in my mind, I think I'm in transition. And so I was like, I think we need to go. Like, it's getting a lot more intense. And so my husband calls the midwife. We're like, hey, we're on our way. I'm like, okay, give me one more contraction in the tub and then I'll get out. At this point, my contractions were like 4 minutes apart still. So I'm still pretty far apart. I thought I was not as far along as I would. Anyway, so I'm like, give me one more contraction, then I'll get out. I wasn't even in my cute swimsuit. I had that, all the things. And so I have that next contraction and my water breaks. Same thing that happened with my first, my water broke towards the end of labor. I feel it. I'm in the tub on my knees. I feel it break. And I'm like, oh, I think the baby's coming, And I had like a moment of panic because this is not the birth plan. We are not in the birth center. I'm in my parents' bathtub. I'm not wearing my cute swimsuit, you know? Luckily my husband was there. And like we actually were talking about it a couple of days later, and he was like, I had a moment of panic because he's like, I don't have my go bag of like his medical supplies. He's a doctor now. And anyway, we just had a moment where I told him the baby's coming, and he grabbed my hands and he's like, Carly, we got this. Like, you are going to be okay. God is here with us. Like, we are going to be okay. And I'm like, okay. And that's like what I needed to hear, because in that moment, I needed that surrender of my body of like, I'm not ready for this, because of my swimsuit and the location and all the things. But my body was ready. I was dilated. This baby was ready to come. So we ended up having her that next contraction. So 7 minutes later after my water broke, and 7 minutes later, she was born in the tub, and my parents' tub.
Wow.
Yeah.
Definitely talking about things not going to plan and just being okay with what comes and navigating it. And sometimes that can be scary. And other times, like you said, your husband reassured you that God was there and you were in good care.
Yeah. Thanks. So yeah, it ended up being like still like a great experience. My mom was there. So she like got to see her granddaughter born on her birthday. My dad was like in the living room, like listening, like, oh, I don't know what to do. So it's kind of a funny story now, like with our family, but my labor total was like 3.5 hours from my first like cramp where I was like, so yeah, I just was not expecting it to be that fast. So after she was born, we did call the midwife, and they were like, kind of talked John through, my husband, all the, checks, and baby was looking great. I was looking great. She was like, okay, well, you can birth the placenta and head on over. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about the placenta. So my mom just grabbed a kitchen bowl and kind of waited. My dad came in, and I'm like in his tub, like, oh, here's your granddaughter. And he's like making me FaceTime people like my brother and my grandma. And I'm still having contractions because I'm still needing to birth the placenta. So I birth the placenta. My mom scoops it up in the kitchen bowl. We get in the car. I am holding the bowl of placenta and the baby on my chest, and we just slowly drive to the birth center. And the midwife is there to greet us. She helped us, cut the cord and then weigh the baby and check me and everything. So I still ended up getting to go to my birth room in the birth center, but just not before baby came.
Well, what an inspiration that you were able to physically and mentally prepare in a way that the birth became a positive and really great experience for you instead of feeling, all of the panic.
Right. Yeah. And I really think it is because I had done the work of preparing and learning about the stages of labor and learning for the signs, and saying like, okay, I know this is going to happen and then this is going to happen. And, and preparing mentally, like my body, I'm trusting my body that I can do this without the aid of a midwife. And so I just had to surrender to my body and the process of birth and my baby was ready to come. So, yeah, it was, if I had to give one word to describe that second birth, it would be surrender.
That's so great. So we know that as a flight attendant, you get quite a lot of time for maternity leave.
Yes.
Now, are you then traveling with your kids? Do you have any advice for us on how to make travel with those little babies, with our kids, a little bit easier?
Yeah, I would love to share about that. So, one of the best pieces of advice I got while pregnant with my first was to include your baby into the lifestyle you already have. So, if you're a camping family, bring your baby camping. If you are a family that likes to go internationally and explore Europe, bring a baby. So I love that just because it doesn't, having a baby isn't going to stop you from doing what brings you joy or the things that you and your spouse or you and your partner love doing before having babies. So my husband and I have really tried to bring them along, and people will say like, oh, they're not going to remember it. That's okay. I'm going to remember it. I'm going to remember bringing them to France or, wherever we're going. So yes. So let's talk about flying with babies specifically. So babies get to fly for free, which is awesome until they turn 2. So once they turn 2, they technically do need to have their own seat. People always ask like, oh, is it 2.5? Is it 2 and under? It's actually 2 years old is the cutoff. So once they turn 2, that 2-year-old birthday, they need their own seat. When they are under 2 and you do have them as a lap child, you just add them to your ticket. You don't need to buy them a ticket, but pretty great. You're not paying for them to be on that flight. They're just like included. So, there are pros and cons to having a lap child. So having a baby on your lap during the flight instead of in their own car seat. Some of the pros are the ticket's free, like I said. They're easy to breastfeed and smooth. They're right there on your chest. Some of the cons are you have to buy the seat with the car seat. And another thing is, so if you have them in the car seat, you might be able to like read your book or enjoy a drink. Like maybe they'll take a nap more easily and you might have a little more free space than if you're holding them. This is all preference too. And then technically too, like according to the FAA, they are safer in the car seat on the plane than as a lap child. Just like something to keep in mind. Personally, I've been just doing the lap child because it is free. I love being able to just breastfeed, take off and landing, having her handy right there. But now that she's 16 months, I just flew with her as a lap child and she was just bouncing on me and, trying to stop her from kicking the seat in front of her. And, so like in that moment, I was like, okay, maybe it would be nice to have her in a car seat right now. But yeah, it's just preference. So the options are either a lap child under 2 or their own seat in a car seat. So kind of a nice perk too about flying with kiddos, you can check your car seat and your stroller for free. Those don't count towards your checked item. You can check that before security or after security. So this is also another preference thing, which you might not really know what you prefer until you're doing it. But before security, if you check those items like your car seat and your stroller, you don't have to worry about those getting them through the security conveyor belt, anything like that. They'll just get to your final destination. Some people do like bringing the stroller through security so that they can have that stroller in the terminal. If you're like going to be connecting, if you're going to have some time in between flights in a terminal, you might want that stroller, just to occupy a baby or a toddler. So that's preference too. For me, my go-to routine is checking the car seat and the stroller at the ticket counter. So before security and baby wearings. I love just baby wearing. It's easy for security. I have my hands free. I even got one of those carriers that's like on the back too, so I can like throw her on my back if I really want my hands free with my toddler. So what I do is I baby wear through security, and it's 50-50 on if TSA will make you take them out of the carrier to go through the scanner or not. I've like had like 50-50 experience on that. And then once you are on the plane, the best piece of advice I can give you for like their ears to equalize is breastfeeding or bottle feeding or like offering a pacifier for takeoff and landing. That's when they need to be swallowing to hopefully equalize their ears. And then like a hack I found for like my toddler, so my 3-year-old no longer breastfeeding, I give her a special airplane lollipop. It's just a normal lollipop, but it only comes out during takeoff and landing. And so she'll have that, and that will help her swallow during takeoff and landing. So I always have a couple extra lollipops on my flights when I'm working, so that if I have any toddlers on the flight who are having a hard time with their ears. And then a lot of people ask me also about, what do I need, like ID-wise, for my baby to fly? You know, like what identification do I need? There's only a couple airlines that require, like domestically, so non-international travel, there's only a couple airlines that will require some sort of identification. And it's usually either a birth certificate or a copy of their latest shot record. That's what I do. I just carry a copy of their latest shot records in my backpack. In the last 50 flights with the kiddos, I've been asked 3 times. So I'm glad I've had it when I've needed it, but I haven't needed it as much as you think. And then with the birth certificate, when I order the birth certificate for the baby when they're first born, I end up just getting 2 copies because here's something else. When you want to get their passport, you actually have to mail them your birth certificate. It feels so weird because you're putting your baby's birth certificate in the mail and sending it off to the U.S. passport agency. So I always order 2 birth certificates, one for me to keep for my peace of mind, one to send off for the passport agency. They do send it back to you 8 weeks after you receive the passport. So it's just something to keep in mind. That's like a little pro tip I tell people. When you are ordering a baby's passport, so if you are planning on flying internationally, traveling with baby or toddler, any child, they do need a passport, and it is good for 5 years. So we did get my kiddos' passports when they before they even turned 1. What we did is we ended up scheduling the photo appointment at the United States Postal Service the same time we were doing the passport appointment. So sometimes they'll let you just throw on the photo appointment beforehand. I know a lot of people are like, how do I get a photo of my baby with their eyes open, white background? You know, I was just too nervous to try to like get that on my own and hopefully have it be approved. So I just scheduled that photo appointment before the passport appointment with both the kiddos. And then the employee helped me position baby so that, you know, her face would be like approved in the application. And I can actually email you guys like the link of how to find out the step-by-step process of how to order your baby's passport, things like what you need when you go to the appointment, how long it will take, you know, how long you can expect to wait for the passport, things like that. I can email you that link. But yeah, it's kind of cute because now when we travel with the kiddos internationally, they have their passports, and like my 3-year-old, it's like her little infant picture, you know? And it was like before we knew her eye color. So it like asked her eye color and we're like, maybe blue or, you know, maybe blonde. I don't know. She's still bald. So it's just kind of cute to like look back on that. And then I do have a couple tips for traveling with toddlers. I do have a 3-year-old now, and I have flown by myself with the 2 girls a couple times, and it is an event. It is doable though. You can't do it. Don't let it stop you from traveling. You know, you can do it. I would just say my number one tip for traveling with toddlers or multiples is managing your expectations. So like, I try to remind myself, hey, travel can be exhausting for me as an adult. You know, like I can get tired or frustrated or hungry or have to go to the bathroom during traveling in the airport. And so why am I expecting my 3-year-old to be positive and happy all the time, you know? So I try to just manage my expectations of they're out of their routine. They might be overstimulated. We are in a new place with lots of people. I might be feeling stressed. So maybe they're feeling my stress. So I just try to be aware of that. Hey, it might be a hard day, but we're going to get there. We're going to get to our destination. And we might laugh about this one day, you know? So with toddlers, I always bring extra kind of special snacks that we don't usually have at home. I also am willing to adjust our screen time limit. So on a normal day, I'll have our screen time, but on travel days, I'll kind of prepare like, okay, I might have to do a little longer screen time than normal, and that's okay. And then also I bring, books, kid-friendly headphones, removable stickers, coloring books, and snacks again. I'm going to mention snacks again. I also just count it as like a happy surprise if they take a nap on the plane, but I don't, expect that because I don't want to be like disappointed if they don't. And then I do download like a movie or something on my device just in case the Wi-Fi isn't working or like the in-flight entertainment isn't working because of course the one flight where you're by yourself with the kiddos, that could happen, so I always have something downloaded just in case. And just remember, like, try to remind yourself, you will get through this. You will get to your destination. It'll be okay. It might be a hard day. You might be tired after, but it'll be okay. And a lot of people do offer to help, like me as a flight attendant, I see a parent traveling alone with the kiddos. I'm like, oh my gosh, how can I help you? Can I hold the baby? Can I help you get settled? Do you need water? Do you need ice? So yeah, just know that people can help and don't be afraid to ask for help from your flight attendant. And then speaking of ice, I did want to mention really quick, I do get asked a lot about traveling with breast milk or like formula. So that's one of the most popular questions I get as a flight attendant. So you are able to travel with breast milk over 3.4 ounces through security. That includes breast milk, formula, like the powder formula, ice packs. So like if your ice packs are liquid, and then even food pouches. So like baby food or pouches. You can bring those through security, and even if they're over 3.4 ounces. So on the TSA website, they list specifically that you are allowed to bring these things. I would take a screenshot of that like TSA agreement and have it handy on your phone because I've had issues in the past and I've heard of people having issues in the past with breast milk or pouches, things like that. Or like if their ice pack isn't fully frozen, so just have that handy on your phone. Personally, what I do when I go to work, I'm still breastfeeding my baby. So I bring my cooler and the cooler does count as a carry-on. So it will count towards one of your personal items or whatever. But I bring a cooler with a bunch of ice packs and my breast milk. So if I'm gone for like less than 4 days, I will try to keep my breast milk, cooled, and I'll keep it in that cooler while I'm flying for the 4 days. If it's anything over 4 days, I just toss it. That's just kind of my standard that I've felt with flying of keeping it safe and healthy for my baby to bring home. It's totally up to you guys on how confident you are in your cooler and things like that. But let me see what else I had on here. Oh, so if you are flying internationally though with breast milk, the rules are totally different. So sometimes they won't let you bring that breast milk in going like leaving another country, coming back into the US. So you might have to plan on dumping there or not bringing your breast milk or just doing it under the ounce guideline, 3.4 ounces. Just check with the individual country to see what their policy is. And then if you are bringing your pump, that's actually considered a medical device. So that doesn't count towards your baggage count. So if you have a bag that has your pump in it, that does not count towards your personal item and carry-on. That's kind of nice. I have a pump that has like a battery operated like attachment. So I love it because wherever I'm at in the airport, if there's not an outlet, I can pump. I just put a blanket over me and I just pump in the seat sometimes when I'm flying. They do have in airports now like those little nursing pods, which is amazing. I love it. So yeah, you can bring your pump flying, and I just bring my own travel size dish soap and my microwavable steam bag so that I can sanitize my pump while I travel. But yeah, those are kind of my tips that I have for breastfeeding while traveling, pumping, things like that. So
such great information. The last thing that I would add to bring on the plane, not just like in your suitcase, is just an extra change of clothes. So whether it's just like an extra onesie or an extra t-shirt for your toddler and an extra t-shirt for yourself, because you never know when the spit up or the poop or anything else might get on you in a way that you don't want to be wearing that for the next 24 hours.
Yes, I love that you said that. My first time flying with my first by myself, she was 4 months, and I had her in the carrier. So, like, I don't know if you've ever had like a blowout in the carrier. It kind of gets pushed up. And so, yeah, it got on the onesie, it got on me, and I did not have a backup onesie handy. Everything was in my like carry-on huge zipper suitcase, but I'm like, I have baby. And so, yeah, I love that. Just stick an extra shirt for you, an extra onesie, diapers, wipes in your purse or like backpack right there at your feet. That is a great tip. I love that.
And many people will carry this in that Ziploc. So then you can put the dirty clothes into the Ziploc, tie it all up, and then either throw it away or deal with it later.
Yay. Yes, I love that.
So great. I love all these little tips and big tips too for flying and traveling with toddlers and babies. One that I wanted to add to was just an activity for each hour or half hour, something new that just changes things up. That's always a good one that I go to.
Oh, I love that idea. I'm going to
Yeah.
do that. I love that.
For sure. Dollar store is great for that, or a new snack every hour that they're like, oh, what is this? So yeah.
I love that idea.
Yes. And then we just get so many ideas from other people. So we're going to end with our Mom Squad secret. This one's from Aubrey. She says, take deep breaths at the start of each contraction. Keep your vocalizing nice and low and really focus on a relaxed forehead, shoulders, and hands. When you tense up, pain feels more intense. And that just goes back to your labor, just, accepting, surrendering, those types of things as you go into labor.
Yeah, I love that. I love that she was making the whole like body mind connection of, not feeling that fear and that tension and really just like relaxing her whole body to then help her labor progress. I love that she mentioned that.
Carly Crowther, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Thank you for sharing your tips about travel, about baby moons, sharing your own birth experiences. This was such a delight. Is there anything else you'd like to add to help our community prepare their hearts and minds for birth?
Ooh, well, thank you so much for having me. It's been so fun. I had so much fun preparing and thinking about talking with you guys. I would say that the most important thing that I think you can do to prepare for labor is to take the time to prepare mentally and physically. So taking that time to prepare mentally. So what does that mean? Doing the birth affirmation cards, maybe doing hypnobirthing, taking a Birth Made Mindful course, learning how to prepare your mind for labor, and then also physically. So what can you do to help prepare your body? And then also having your provider kind of on your team. So having a supportive provider, communicating with your birth partner. Those are all aspects of preparing mentally and physically for labor. And I would just encourage you to, like, labor does not have to be a scary, painful, traumatizing, horrible experience. It doesn't. I really enjoyed both my labors. They were so different and both were so different from my birth plan, but I still ended up loving them. And I'm honestly really excited for my next one. I know like a lot of people don't say they love labor, but I honestly do. I might be crazy, but I just think it's the coolest, hardest thing, you can ever do. But you're helping like bring this life into the world with your body. It's just incredible. And like your birth partner, like the one you love the most is there encouraging you. It's just like such an intimate time. It can be such a positive experience wherever you're planning on birthing, whether that's the hospital, birth center, home birth, you can have an amazing birth experience. I just want to encourage you guys listening. So I'm excited for your birth.
Thank you so much. We hope that each of you will continue to listen and prepare for the best birth.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode. We hope you've been elevated and inspired by this week's expert.
Subscribe today so you never miss an episode. And please share our podcast or post on your social media so that other moms and dads-to-be can also have the best birth.
Please note that the information provided is based on the expert's insights and personal experience. It is not intended as medical guidance. Please seek the advice of your medical provider as it applies to your specific condition.